Hey everyone, my name is Waheed. I'm the Managing Director for Consultant Manage, a leading ERP and CRM consultancy business. So as we are going through our Zoho Creator Development Series, which is basically for people who want to get into career of Zoho Creator or businesses who are looking into the option of using Zoho Creator for any of their use cases. So in this, of going through this series will help you understand the capabilities of the platform, what the platform really offers, and these type of things. So today's video is one of the last videos of the lecture, like the series. And in this video, we will be linking or creating authentication tokens. Now, giving a brief of authentication tokens, what they are. Authentication tokens are a sort of a password, like a virtual refresh token password that changes every time you try to log into the system. And then that's why it makes the system more secure, because you authenticate the token every time you try to log in or request an access to the system. Okay, so it works the same way as the other factor authentication systems, but the difference is that it's more code oriented. And when it comes to Zoho Creator, linking an external system Zoho Creator, it's not just a plug and play option. So we have to register an application with Zoho, and we get the credentials, and then we use those credentials to make our API request to fetch the refresh token. And then using that refresh tokens, we can refresh the token again and again, and every time we refresh it, we get a new string of token that we can use to send or receive request from Zoho Creator. And this is not just limited to Zoho Creator, it's basically common throughout the Zoho platform. So today, briefly, we will talk about how to register an application. We will register an application, we will create a request, a code, and then we will basically use that code to create a refresh token. So all will be covered in this video. Stay tuned and let's get to the topic. Okay, so here we are, apiconsole.zoho.com. So when you come to this particular section, you would be able to register your application with it, right? So I will just come here and I will say add client, and then I will say server-based client. Okay, and server-based client name is Zoho Creator Series. Homepage is this URL is a bit important because like I will just say consult2manage.com, and over here I will say services.consult2manage.com. I will just copy this consult2manage.com. Just put yes dot. I will just copy this just for the, okay, now, okay, creator, no valid, okay. So we have this. Now we will quickly note down these details. So our redirect URI that we put was, you can put any URI. It's not just limited to specifically Zoho. Like it's not related that what you put, because this is basically to generate token. One important thing you need to note here is basically, I will just get to that shortly. Give me 1 sec. Let me note down these details. This is our client ID and client secret. Okay. So this is our client ID, and this is our client secret. Okay. Now coming back here, the important detail that why this redirect URI is important, because while we do this, we will be creating a request to this website, right? we'll be building up the authentication code that we will use to get the refresh token. We will be getting that on this URL. So I will come to that shortly. We will see how it works. But the key thing to be noted here is that this should be important, because if you put a random URL from the internet, you're not aware that either that website that you're putting in might be using a tracking code on their website that can track your code. Because when you make a request, the system ask you to approve that, and once you approve the request, it basically goes onto that URL and disclose the code. So if they have a tracking code in place which tracks the URL parameters, probably your code would become available to them, right? So it's not necessary that it would happen, but there is a security case. So it's highly recommended to use something that you are using, or something that is secured, right? So it's my own website, so that's why I'm doing. Now over here, this is telling me the zones, okay, multi DC zones. So I will all data centers. I will use the same for all data centers, right? So this is also important because it depends on which account you're logging in from. Is it it's based in US, EU, AU, whichever zone it is, whichever region it is, basically servers. So you would be available, the code would be available, and it would work basically, okay? Because every account has a different data center in Zoho. Okay, now we have these details. What we're gonna do is we will create token request. So this is a custom URL. We'll just copy the same, copy this, and we will paste it over here. Okay, this will remain the same, accounts.zoho.com. Okay, and then we will say auth, response type is equal to code, client ID, we got this, right? So we'll just copy this, client ID. And you don't need to note down this URL, but client ID. And then we have scope. We have the scope as Zoho creator and Zoho creator read and read. Now I'll explain this this scope is very important, because what this scope does is basically it gives the access to the system. It gives the API access to the system to create and read reports, right? So this is important. This basically controls your APIs. Either you just want to create a record, or you just want to read a record, or you want to delete a record. So based on the API or the service you are registering, it will does the magic. Like whatever you assign, it will basically keep a control of it. So if you are giving the API access to an external system, like something like an external system or something similar nature, you can basically do that. So now we have this create token request. So we will just say token, right? And we will just keep it here. The token. So we have the token here. Okay. Now we will go to our Postman. People who are not aware of Postman. So basically Postman, what it does is basically it helps you keep your, it helps you make your API requests through online channels, right? So just give me 1 sec. That's fine. Just want to make sure there are no spaces. So that's fine. I'll send a request. Okay. We can use Postman for this, or we can simply paste that. We will just copy this. I will just explain you, because by default our browsers are GET request. So if I do hit enter, what it does is it will go straight in, and the first thing it asks me is, would you like to access the following information? The first one is creator, to add a record in the form and to view the record present in the report. So if we go back here, we saw that the scope was Zoho creator form record and Zoho creator report feed, right? So it allows us, like it asks either you want to add a record in the form or you want to view the record present in the report, right? So if they say accept, what it would do is basically, what would be the next behavior? It will go to this redirect URI and it will give me a code, a token code, which is very, very important. I will say token code. Generally, it's called code, but I will say token code just to make it a bit different. Okay, and I will say accept. As soon as I hit accept, what it does is connection is not private. So I will just leave it as it is. But one thing you noticed here, there is a code here, right? This is the code I need basically. I will just copy this. I will see the next part of it. It's nothing really make like important, but this code was important. So I will just note this code again. I'll just make sure that I haven't made any mistake in copying it. So I will just copy this. I will just take this code out. Okay, and this is the code I'm taking out. Once I have this code, simply I will control save this, and I will just say okay, bye. That's it. My work for that is done now. Now the things that I have now, I have a token code. Okay, and I have the token code. Now I can use this token code to get the refresh token. One thing I want to highlight here is the access type is offline. Okay, I will share this document with you guys as well to understand how this really works. So you will have this in PDF version attached to the video in the description of the video. Okay, and if you don't find it, just feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can email me at waheed@consulttomanage.com, and I will share this document with you. And even if you have any questions, I will be more than happy, and my team would be more than happy to assist. So if I say online, what would happen is basically it won't give me a refresh token. Okay, so when I say offline, that means I just need a refresh token. So whenever I need a access token, I can refresh it and get an access token out of it, right? So in that way, I need to make it offline. Okay, so this is important. Now we will just copy this again. We will just copy this, and what we will do is it's a base account URL, which is basically the accounts.zoho.com. Okay, token grant type authorization code client ID is this. Okay, client ID, client secret. You must be worrying that I have like disclosed the client secret. That's not a problem because the time you will be using this, I already would have deleted this application. So redirect URI. And the authorization code that we got here. So we have this. Now this URL is ready. Okay, we'll just copy this. There are a few spaces in here. So we'll go back. We will just say this. Now what we're gonna do is basically we will make sure that there is no spacing in between. So we will just do this, and then we will be doing this. Okay, so now we know there is no spacing, and we will make it as a post request. I believe it's a post request, but it will give us an error if there is an error. Okay, so we made a post request. We created this exact, copied this URL, put in the information that we got from first step, right? Now what we're gonna do is basically we will send a request, and the system will send us back two authentication tokens, like two token numbers. One is the refresh token, and one is the generic token. We can use the generic token as it is in the system and make a request, but that is not what we need. We need the refresh token because we want to we want to use it multiple times, right? So we'll just say a send request, and if the request goes in. Okay guys, so basically I had an issue. The code was like code expired, code wasn't properly moving across. So we put this URL, the same thing that we did here. So I will save this right URL over in the list here, just for you guys, because you will have access to this document. Okay, so I will put this here. Now, the things that we got as a response is the refresh token, access token. So we need a refresh token. We don't need access token at the moment, because we have the refresh token. We can create access token as many times as we want now. So we don't need to create the token or request again this code again, or we won't need to do anything now. So all we need is a refresh token, and using this refresh token we can send a request, get a response as an access token, and use that access token in the header with the request for the authorization, and that's all we need to do, and that's it. So yeah, and now we will be getting to our next step, which is basically creating the refresh. Like now we have the refresh token. We would like to send out a request now. So we have this refresh token. We will just copy this again. We will get this copy and we will get it in here. Okay, and we will just remove this so we know. So now we have refresh token, client ID, grant type, refresh token, client secret, and client ID and refresh token. So we will just copy our refresh token. Client ID is something we will be needing. Just copy this. Refresh token. We'll just copy this. Client ID. We'll just go up. Client ID. We'll just go to the client ID itself. Then we have the client secret. And we have the grant type. Now over here we have the base accounts for our, like the server that I'm using of Zoho is accounts.zoho.com, because it's a US based server. So I will just copy this part just for the sake of understanding. Just copy this part. I will paste it here as the account user, and hopefully it shouldn't be an issue now. Send a request. So now we have the access token as a response to our request with the refresh token. So every time we send a request, we will get a new code. So every time I send a request, I will get a new code. So what I would do is I will just copy this. Okay. Now this is very important. So either I copy it, it doesn't matter, because after sometimes after 3600 seconds, it will expire. So what I would do is I will just keep it as it is. I will save this, right, and I will open a new tab, okay, where I will be making a request to the system. So using this access token, I will be making a request to the system. So that would be covered in our next video. So the way moving forward would be, we will create an access token. Okay, we will just copy this specific token. We'll copy it. We will go here. We will put our request, get or update or delete, whatever the request we will be putting in. We'll say auth 2.0 access token. We will put an access token here, and basically that's it. And then we will be putting the body of the thing, which is basically the raw data we will be putting in, and we will be putting a get request. So we will be covering that section or that part into our next video, and hope you have learned in this how to create a token in the system, how to make requests to the system, how to debug or find the bugs in the code or the request that we are making. So we got to the point where we are getting the refresh token. Now we will be using that refresh token to generate an access token, which we just saw, and now we will be using that access token to send a request to the system and get a response back. Or we want to update a system, we will do that the same way. So stay tuned. We will be in our next video, we will be covering how to upload a data file like we are doing it for an API, direct through API, custom API integration. You can do it through other means as well, but the sole purpose is to give you an understanding of how to create tokens and how the system really works. So if you have any questions, any queries, feel free, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. And if you have any certain queries that needs to be answered, feel free to reach out to me. Okay, thank you very much. Stay tuned. See you in the next video.